name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paulini, and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us today. Welcome into our Monte Carlo breakdown and preview as we talk about the round of 16 matches that happened today and look forward to the quarterfinal matches that will be coming tomorrow. And today I'm joined by my co-host Carson, hailing from Minnesota. How are we doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good. So, Carson, let's get right into it. It was an exciting day in Monte Carlo. Finally, the sun came out. Plenty of action, plenty of fireworks. But we are going to start with our first quarterfinal for tomorrow, which is going to be between Alejandro Davidovich Fokina and Alexei Popyrin. So let's start with the first match of the day, which was Fokina versus Draper. A heavily contested battle. It went 3 sets. What did you make of this match?
It was maybe not the prettiest match of tennis that I've ever seen in my life. But yes, good to finally have some decent weather out there, relative, of course. But yeah, it was good. It was a good match. Very physical battle between the two, and not the greatest match. I was really impressed to see ADF come out with the victory here. I thought Draper had a really good chance to use this match and build up some form going into the clay season. But yeah, ADF was more than good enough today, especially in the third set. I was quite impressed with him and how he handled it down the stretch.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I think with Fokina, we've thought about him historically, struggling in big moments and closing out matches, or having a lead and suffering some setbacks as he's going to, serve it out, close it out as the finish line encroaches. But, it was it felt like a tale as old as time until, he was able to fight back. But I think a big story is with Jack Draper as well, because, we're talking about him playing some of the better tennis of his career. He's up to world number 6, and we're moving into clay season. That's there's still some question marks for Jack, and I think going into this matchup, I thought it would be a tight one, because you look at that record for Fokina against lefties. It was 19-6, I believe, going into this match. And what I pinpoint in terms of that is how well he's able to neutralize the lefty forehand with his strong backhand, and also just he's a great mover, and he plays with a lot of variety, and he's comfortable on the clay. So I thought going into it, it was no means going to be easy, but I definitely did lean Draper. Today it was kind of as you said, it was a messy match. Draper had 10 double faults. It definitely cost him in this match. But on the flip side, Fokina was very, very outspoken in terms of it wasn't a well-managed emotional match for him. That's obviously something that is a big kind of talking point and for him and his matches. But when he's actually outspoken about it, that it wasn't pretty. But overall, I'd say it's an important win, and he's into the quarterfinals here in Monte Carlo. So
It
let's
is
see.
important to learn how to manage your emotions during this moment, but having emotion is not necessarily a bad thing. We see players with big emotions get big wins all of the time. So it doesn't need to be a hindrance as far as just stop having emotion on the court. We see players like Djokovic, Sabalenka, that are a little more what's a good word? They're a little more like expressive with their emotions on the court, and we see that it doesn't affect them. So it doesn't have to be a differentiating line in between. If you show a lot of emotion, you're going to lose, and if you don't show emotion, you're going to win. But I feel like this is a good win for him, and I think he may be on a similar journey to Rublev, and just like learning to manage that a little bit more. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we'll get more into that conversation as we talk more about that matchup. But let's focus on the other opponent for Fokina in this quarterfinal, which is going to be Alexei Popyrin. Today he came through with the biggest upset of the day and took down a defending runner-up, Clay Merchant, as we'd say, and Casper Ruud. This definitely, surprised me in terms of, you're looking at Popyrin's 2025 and it's been a struggle. But, I was also kind of looking at the previous two matches, which weren't really convincing for me. I know we're on a surface change and these are his first matches on clay, but, against Humbert, I thought it was going to be a tight match, but, ultimately I thought it would be maybe a little bit more straightforward and there'd be more consistency. And that's something that Popyrin deals with because of kind of how volatile his play style is. But then I wasn't convinced at all by the Tiafoe match. So honestly, this came as a surprise to me. I'm sure you agree. What do you think about Popyrin's play so far here in Monte Carlo?
I agree. I did not have massive expectations for him coming into this tournament. He had just 2 wins on the year before this tournament, which is a little wild to think about for a player of his talent level. He's got 3 wins though now against top 20 players this week. I was surprised though by this win against Ruud. As you said, the Humbert match, maybe not necessarily the most convincing win, a tight one, but not the preferred surface of either of them. And then Tiafoe, we know about his struggles with clay. So again, not necessarily the most convincing, but then came out today and looked really, really good. It's the best tennis I think we've seen from him for a while, and against a player of Casper Ruud's talent and abilities, who Casper had a pretty solid win in his second round match against Bautista Agut. So I didn't really see this one coming at all.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we could be having a different conversation right now in terms of, Casper being up a break in the third, and you looked at match points on Popyrin's serve, and that's kind of how some matches go when you look at match points and you don't take them. It can have, a big effect as you're looking to close out the match, and that was the case for Ruud. Just felt like he got a little bit tight, which I know he's had some struggles in terms of playing in big moments and under pressure. But you think in terms of this surface, the comfort level in these conditions, you would think he would serve it out, but he didn't, and that proved costly. And kind of from that moment on, it felt like Popyrin was able to loosen up and really release on those ground strokes. And that's kind of the clay ability that he has, and that I talked a little bit about yesterday in terms of he produces a bunch of RPMs and hits such a heavy ball from the baseline, and that can cause a lot of problems. And today he just was a little bit more freer. The serve started to click a bit, and he was just going for more. And then I have to give him credit in terms of his hand skills. Come kind of the last 4 or 5 games were just superb. So you just have to credit him for staying strong despite not having such a good 2025 and coming out with the biggest win of his season so far, and make that 3 top 20 wins in a row. Humbert, Tiafoe, and Casper Ruud. So Carson, let's get into the preview. As we said, Fokina versus Popyrin, both coming in here hot with some good wins. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow?
I think in between these two, I'd maybe lean towards Davidovich Fokina a little bit. I think it will be a tight matchup. Both of them have been playing good tennis this week. I think ADF has another ceiling that he can reach, though, even with this performance today, which was a really good win against Draper. I think that there's another level that he can reach to. I do worry about Popyrin, and I mean, I think we saw in one of the comments he's like experimenting with a new, a little bit of a new grip this week. So it's been working well so far, but in pressure moments, like that's something that you can slip into an old pattern of what you used to be doing. So we'll see if that has any effect at all. I think like I'll just take the overall form of the two players and how they've been playing this year. With Davidovich Fokina, he's reached 2 finals now in Delray Beach and Acapulco earlier this year. Obviously, those are on hard court, so it's a little bit of a different situation, but he's been playing well in the last few months, and I think he feels good right now.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think especially, Popyrin coming off of this is now three setters in a row. And you see those highs and lows because yes, he can peak so hard, and you could see that today in terms of kind of it looked like just playing with more freedom and confidence, and that's obviously something you want to see. But in terms of right, the more informed player, I'd say the more comfortable player and a little bit more battle tested. I think it seemed like Ruud lost a lot of belief in himself towards the end, and his shots just weren't having as much of an effect. And Poppy's, very happy to step inside the baseline and rip, forehands inside out. And that's the kind of challenge that he can possess. But for Foki, I just think comfort on this surface and talking about confidence. I think there's also a great opportunity for self-reflection for him, especially after a match like today, where he was riding a set and a break kind of the whole time, and the finish line was right there, and it didn't come right away, and he had to work for it, but ended up getting the job done. I think that allows him to kind of, assess and reset and understand kind of the moment and go from there. So I wouldn't be surprised to see another tight contest with Fokina at the ebbs and flows in terms of his game and obviously the emotional outburst that can come with that. So I'm with you. I'm leaning Fokina, tight 2, and wouldn't be surprised by 3. Definitely a lot of fatigue on both their bodies. So I think it should be a fun contest. Perfect. All right, shall we move on? So the second quarterfinal on the schedule tomorrow is going to be between Arthur Fils and Carlos Alcaraz. Now, you're talking about 2 of the best young players in the game, and obviously 2 players that have games that can translate to all surfaces. But we've seen Fils have success on the clay, and Carlos definitely his best surface, I'd say. So let's start with Arthur Fils. What a great week he's having, and talk about a one-sided victory today against Andrei Rublev. What did you make of that match today?
I think it's almost hard to know what to make of the match today because it was quite one-sided. I wasn't really expecting that at all. I thought Rublev was going to put up much more of a fight than he did. But I mean, all credit to Arthur Fils. He's been having a really good weekend. Hasn't exactly had the easiest matches coming in, although in playing Greek Sport and Kabali, a couple of players who reached the finals of tournaments last week, maybe they're dealing with a little bit of fatigue. But I mean, I think he dropped the first set against Greek Sport and then has won 6 straight sets since then. And I don't even know if he's dropped more than 4 games in any one of those sets. So he's been playing solid. Clay is obviously a very good surface for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest takeaway here is now this is his 3rd straight Masters 1000 quarterfinal, consecutive. So I mean, just talking about form, it's probably the highest consistency level, and that's kind of something that I've been on the lookout with him in terms of talking about such an aggressive player who has such big weapons. It's like how consistent are you going to be using them? But I mean, today, like we said, I just think it's been one-sided. He returned so well, and even serve so well. I think he won 80% of his first serve points. So it was just kind of, a tight knit, performance from start to finish. Didn't allow Rublev to get any rhythm. And, talk about just ferocious defense and ball striking. It was, quite impressive from him. Now let's move on to the Carlos Alcaraz match. And he played against Danny Altmaier today. What did you make of this match? Any surprises, or was this pretty straightforward in what you were thinking?
Maybe not surprised by the scoreline. Scoreline was pretty straightforward, 6-3, 6-1. I was pleasantly surprised, I think, by how well Altmaier played, especially in the first set. Like, there were a lot of fun moments early on in this match, and even early on in the second set, it still looked like it was pretty tight, and then Carlos kind of just ran away with it. But I think I got the match that I expected. Carlos, we know that he can be a little bit sporadic in his play at times. He looked very focused today. Didn't look like there was much of a lapse in concentration at all at any point. He played well. So, yeah, given all of that, I'm not shocked that he's moved on here. What do you pull from this match?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, the perfect type of matchup to gain rhythm and confidence, especially as we move to a different surface. And for Carlos, just to get rhythm back, because it's just been a little bit rocky on the hard court. But yeah, I think another big thing is just too many. Carlos, because he likes to have so much fun and he doesn't really hold such a consistent level. That's going to be the talking point about his game probably for the next year or two, 3 even. But he faced 10 break points today, even against a Danny Altmaier, who's more of a baseline guru. He'll grind you down. He doesn't play with a lot of aggression. Rather, he's a big defender and takes his moments. But he did save 9 of those 10. So that's that's a talking point. But then, yeah, as you said, I think it's just like fun to see Carlos kind of in his groove, in the rhythm, and displaying the shot making was on full display. So as some of us in the comment are saying, he is such an entertainer, for better or for worse. That's a great way to put it. I always love watching him, and I think if I were to try and get people into tennis, I would want them to watch, his matches. And I think Arthur Fees and Carlos Alcaraz will produce some fireworks. So, Carson, what is your prediction on this match?
I think this might be the match I'm looking forward to the most out of all of these two young players who have been playing really well. I think on any given day, I will take Alcaraz to win this match. These two have not played each other before, so it is their first matchup. So hard to know if one of them is going to struggle with a particular shot against the other one and just reading it correctly as the ball is coming back at them. But I think I've been really excited with how Alcaraz is playing. This match against Altmaier was good, but then the last 2 sets against Cerundolo in his first match as well. Very impressed with that. And so I think he's starting to come into a rhythm of how he wants to be playing tennis at this point of the season. So I think I'll lean Carlos in this one, but I could see this going 3 sets.
Yeah, I hear you there. I think it's interesting. As you mentioned, they have not played each other before. 2 young guns who possess so much weaponry and such fun players to watch. I'm definitely gonna be intrigued in terms of how Carlos starts this match, because I feel like it has been slow starting for him, and that's where he can get down, and then at that point he's maybe forced to reset. And even in that Cerundolo match where he had to save break points early in that second set to at least, keep himself out in front. And, job well done. And he accomplished that. It feels like he's starting to get rhythm, but you just think what could be if some of those break points don't go his way. And talk about someone who's, really good at creating neutral opportunities. And Carlos Alcaraz serve hasn't been firing like that. So I think, Fees has the weaponry and ability to hang with him even on this surface that Carlos, makes other players look silly at times. So I think this should definitely be a battle. I do think, though, just comfortability on the surface and firepower will make a difference. I feel like both these players love to get the crowd involved, so it's just going to be an awesome electric type of atmosphere. And I think that'll get Carlos even more into the match, and maybe a little bit more hungry, because sometimes, as you say, he doesn't like to win too easily. But with Bees being such a energetic and lively type of player on the other side of the net, I think that's going to only get Carlos more up for this match. So I'm super excited, and yeah, it should be some fireworks. Yeah. As Gene's saying, Fee's return quality at one point was 9.8. So that's where it's, as I said, just like continuing to get balls back and give himself chance in rallies. So awesome. All right, let's continue to move on to our third quarterfinal of the day, which will be between Grigor Dimitrov and Alex de Minaur. Now, we'll start with Alex de Minaur. He came through today in a really quick match, despite maybe what we thought against Medvedev. Just over an hour and 13 minutes, and it was 6-2, 6-2. Did you have a chance to watch this match? What did you make of this, Carson?
I saw the very, very end of this match, which, as the scoreline suggests, it wasn't the most exciting finish of any of these matches today. With Medvedev, I do wonder if there was maybe a little bit of fatigue involved with this in between his matches with Khachanov and Muller. He spent nearly 6 hours on court in between those two. So I do just wonder if there's a little bit of fatigue on there. And then, Medvedev, I think, is vocal about his opinions on clay and what he thinks about the surface. And sometimes when he decides he wants to be done with it, like, there's not much you can do to get him back in the rhythm of the match. Neither of them served very well today, which is something that ADM is going to have to improve at in his next match if he wants to win that. I'm really impressed with watching his journey these last couple of seasons on clay, and just how he seems to be coming into a level of relative comfort on a surface that isn't natural for him. But he's looking a lot better the last 12 to 13 months whenever he's been on clay. You feel like he has a chance against the top players in the world, and a match like this really helps, I think, certify that opinion.
Totally. I think, where we have to start is just the physical fatigue there. I think even coming into the match, it's like, all right, I'm playing probably the most in shape, fit player on tour, on one of the slowest surfaces on tour. So it's going to be difficult regardless. And for Medvedev, he's not a guy that's going to blow winners by you. And I think it just got to a point in the match where he was kind of just playing, not necessarily like outside of his comfort zone, but in order to win that match in a reasonable fashion, he had to go for more than he wanted to. And just sloppy from the serving to, the unforced error count creeping up. And I think it was just a little bit too tall of a task today. And with Minaur, I'm still like, trying to get a read on him in this surface. So, it's always great to see him play in, bigger matches, bigger stages, even this early into the clay season. So his opponent today tomorrow, that is, will be Grigor Dimitrov. And he got through in 3 today over Alejandro Tobio. Tobio coming off that win over Djokovic, probably with plenty of confidence, and he's going up against a one-handed backhand. What did you think of this match, Carson?
This was a very back and forth match. Grigor Dimitrov started off quite well, took the first set 6-3. And then the second set, we saw a quite different level from Tabilo, and Grigor dropped off a little bit as well. So went to a third set. I felt, though, by the end of the second set, Grigor Dimitrov's level was starting to rise again. And then the third set was quite smooth sailing, got an early break, which helped a lot. And then break at the end of the match as well. So to win in the third set 6-2. He's been playing pretty strong tennis overall. He's following up a semifinal performance in Miami. So it's been a good month of tennis for him.
Yeah, no, it has. It has. And I talked about kind of all week in terms of Dimitrov just being comfortable in these conditions, the atmosphere, feeling the support here, and just his ability on clay, the variety he possesses, the shapes and angles that he can create. It's difficult for kind of any opponent, and especially a lefty matchup is not easy for him though as well. I mean, I guess on both sides of that card where that one-hander has the ability to maybe get picked on, but he's so sturdy and he's so good at putting the ball in difficult positions. And I always think it's a little bit hard to, not a little bit, it is hard to follow up some of the bigger wins, in your career, or even at this point, I would say for Tabio in his season, even if it wasn't a in form, up for it type of Djokovic coming off that, you have to kind of stay level and stay heady. And it was just maybe a little bit too much of a task. But at the end of the day, it did go 3, and there was an opportunity there. But you could tell in the third set that, Dimitrov had the edge, and just a little bit more conviction. So, yeah, okay, Gene. So this is Dimitrov's 5th Monte Carlo quarterfinal now. So that's what I'm talking about. I mean, he's one of the bigger guys who has, a residence out here, and definitely very well liked and well received. So let's get into the preview. We got Grigor Dimitrov and Alex de Minaur, third on tomorrow. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, so these two have, unlike our first 2 matches that we covered, these two have played a few times. de Minaur has a 3-2 head-to-head lead, so won't be the first time that they've matched up. I'm just going off of a gut feeling here, but I feel like Dimitrov is going to get the win tomorrow. I'm just going off of a gut feeling. By that, there's not like one specific thing that I think is a massive edge for him in this match, but he's been playing some really good tennis and seems to be in a great headspace. And yeah, I think he is going to pull this one out. It might be 2, might be 3. I don't really have a prediction on that, but he loves playing at this tournament, and he's been playing great tennis. So how are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, I like Dimitrov here. I think, yes, of course, there are some people in the comments talking about, Dimitrov having a residence here. I guess it's a home court. Yeah. So he's obviously, practiced and played here, and feels comfortable in these conditions. But I think that Dimitrov has the ability to pick on the de Minaur forehand. And what I mean by that is continuing to use variety to that forehand, specifically the slice, where he's making probably ADM pick up a forehand and generate that pace. And likely that's going to be with a lot of topspin. And what I think he's going to be looking to do is get some higher balls in that forehand slot. And that's really Dimitrov's go zone, where he has that ability to flatten out the forehand down the line, and he loves joining it to the net. Such great hands, obviously, with the one-hander. He trusts himself well, and I think he'll kind of pick on that sort of pattern play to start, and then that'll allow him to open up the court more and use his angles with the one-handed backhand. So I think he's just going to, continuing to look to hit as many forehands and kind of pick on that de Minaur forehand. So I do think he takes it. Both of Dimitrov's last 2 matches going 3 sets. So yeah, I'm cool with not making a prediction there, but I think, it should be an exciting match, and obviously maybe another physical one as well. Both great athletes between de Minaur and Dimitrov. So getting into our final quarterfinal on the day, it's going to be between two one-handed backhands, Lorenzo Musetti and Stefanos Tsitsipas. Both looking good here, having solid weeks. We'll start with Lorenzo Musetti. Definitely a little bit of a rocky start, but he's managed to come through his first two matches in 3 sets, and then today it was just a lot more convincing against Berrettini. What do you make of that match, Carson?
What I make of it is that Berrettini was hitting a lot of unforced errors today. I think 44 or 45 of them, just not giving himself a great chance. But yeah, sometimes when you're playing tennis, what you need to do is just get the ball back into play. Musetti was able to do that today, and I believe this is his second quarterfinal in Monte Carlo. I can't remember. I should have looked that up before we began, but he's been doing well here and has been doing quite well on clay since the Olympics began. Made a nice run in the Olympics, and then obviously Numag towards the end of the year, reaching the finals. So it's a good start to his clay season. Lots of good vibes right now around him, and I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we talk about the fact 3 of the 4 players on this side of the draw have one-handed backhands. Like, is that a comeback? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll start with the surface in terms of the clay. It's high bouncing clay, it's a slower court, and that just allows more time for these one-handed backhands to set up their shots. But I think for Musetti, it's definitely condition based for him. An all-court guy because of the variety and ability that he possesses. But definitely we lean towards the clay and the grass. But he's just what he's able to do so well here is play so deep behind the baseline, and he's like I talked about, kind of him controlling the pace from the back of the court, and he's able to, he's happy to defend. And I would definitely say that kind of played a huge part today because Berrettini maybe wasn't on his top level physically and was looking to shorten points, and that didn't go his way today. And once those points got a little bit more extended and it became more physical, the edge was definitely to Musetti. So I love Musetti's game here. I think it fits the conditions so well, and he's got a lot to be happy about so far, especially coming through 2 tough 3-setters to start this tournament. Now we'll look at the other opponent, which is going to be Stefanos Tsitsipas. He's had such a great track record here in Monte Carlo. He is the defending champion, so he's got that well, you can call it pressure or opportunity to show really who's boss here. He's won this tournament multiple times, and he had quite a convincing win against Borges. What did you make of that match?
He's a 3-time champion here. If anyone loves the conditions here, it is Stefanos Tsitsipas, and did really, really well today. 6-1, 6-1 against Nuno Borges. Yeah, he was just moving Borges all over the court, moving him from corner to corner. I mean, this is the level that we think we can and should see from Tsitsipas more often. Like, this is exactly the type of match that we want to see him play. Yeah, so I was really impressed with him today, and yeah, loves the conditions here. There was a little bit of pressure early on in this match. I think he faced 5 or 6 break points in the first set, saved all of them. But a lot of these, in spite of the scoreline, a lot of these games, it did feel like their returner was getting to like 30 or 40 points, and we like have a deuce fairly often. So there was like some, in spite of the scoreline being quite one-sided, a lot of the games felt fairly tight. So credit to Nuno Borges for that, and yeah, he'll hopefully see a better scoreline the next time that these two face off. That's not as one-sided, but yeah, Tsitsipas moves on into yet another quarterfinals here.
Yeah, and as Gene is telling us, perfect timing. Some huge news in the tennis world. Goran Ivanisevic is going to become Stefanos Tsitsipas's new coach after Roland Garros. I think we'll dedicate some time, maybe in a future show to talk about how exciting that pairing can be. But obviously, huge news in the tennis world, and obviously. Before we get into these quarterfinal matches tomorrow, obviously some big talking points with Ivan Isavic, leaving the Rybakina camp after just a short stint. But we'll save those thoughts for a future show. But I love some breaking news. So thank you, Gene, for breaking it. I just had to double check it because I was like, is this real? So thanks for that, Gene, and looking forward to having more conversations about that pairing. But yeah, I mean, talk about just comfort and confidence and conditions and atmosphere. It's Stefanos Tsitsipas's favorite place to play, and it looked to be again that way today. As you said, 5 out of 6 break points saved, so obviously it makes the scoreline look a lot different. But Borges coming off a marathon match versus Martinez yesterday, you're kind of seeing just a totally different opponent in Tsitsipas with the one-handed backhand, the angles and topspin he generates. It just poses a totally different threat, and I thought that was just going to be too much for Borges today. So let's get into our final preview for the final quarterfinal. Lorenzo Musetti versus Stefanos Tsitsipas. Let's check that head-to-head.
It is not close. Tsitsipas leads at 5-0. So, frankly, I'm not really sure I see what would change from the previous matches to this one, especially at a place that Tsitsipas loves playing. As you said, this is his favorite place on the tour to play. I think he'll win, and I don't know. I think it could be fairly convincing. I mean, you don't know how much you want to read into previous matchups, but Musetti did have a couple of tough 3-setters to open up the tournament, so he's been on court quite a bit more than Tsitsipas has. Tsitsipas had a first-round bye before facing Jordan Thompson in the second round. So I just feel like combination of maybe some fitness catching up to Musetti, and then Tsitsipas just loves playing here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair point in the fitness column, but I think today's win against Berrettini didn't take too much out of Musetti, and I think we're talking about two guys who are super comfortable here. Looking at their past matchups, 4 out of the 5 of them, came on clay. Definitely similar surface. They played in Barcelona, the French, Lyon, and Rome. So talking about surfaces that play fairly similar to Monte Carlo, and they were all super tight. In terms of the French Open, it went 5, and then the other 3 matches on clay, 2 of them went 3 sets, and the other one, the 2-setter, being a 7-5, 7-5 victory. So that was the most recent one, 2023 in Rome. I think this is going to be a battle, Carson. I really do. I think belief and bravery is going to come down to it. Some tight moments, and who's going to kind of go for that shot, because you have 2 guys who are very comfortable hanging super deep behind that baseline. And both of them, as you talk about these one-handers that produce so much topspin, and they're tough to handle as they bounce up above your shoulders. I think Musetti has more of an attacking one-hander, if that makes sense. I think he has the ability to flatten it out and change the direction a little bit easier than Tsitsipas. But I would say on the flip side, I think Stefanos as a player is a little bit more aggressive. Musetti is very patient. He works the court well, uses so much variety. So I'm just really interested, because I'm talking about how Musetti does such a good job of kind of controlling the pace of play and the point, and kind of dictating on his own terms. That's something I'm going to be looking out for. But I just think of the bravery in terms of who's going to be willing to go for it in those tight moments. So I'm expecting a thriller. It's going to be probably one of the I mean, we have 4, but it's going to be a match that I'm looking forward to. probably just right there with Carlos and Fee. So super exciting quarterfinal day. Carson, do you have any thoughts to wrap this up?
I think it's going to be a very fun day of tennis. Like, we've got 4 matchups that I think all of them are going to be fairly high quality. There's none of them that I really look at and I'm like, that one might not be such a great match. I think we're going to see some really good tennis tomorrow.
No, I'm right there with you. I'm hoping it's a nice sunny day and the fans are excited because it's going to be a beautiful day of tennis. So that, I think, wraps us up for today. Just want to say thanks to everyone who tuned into the show and kept along. I'm super excited to learn more about the Goran and Stefano's news, and that pairing is going to be so exciting. So a lot to talk about in the future, but I'm looking forward to tomorrow. So thanks for joining me today, Carson, and looking forward to the matches.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.